The Council is stunned. They're attacking Earth? Have they lost their minds? HFY, the Galactic Council chamber, floated in silent orbit around a blue star, its transparent walls showing endless space filled with distant lights. Delegates from many civilizations gathered inside, sitting in curved rows that circled a glowing platform. Voices overlapped in dozens of languages, but one message had silenced them all. An alert flashed in red across the chamber's central display. Unknown fleets were moving toward Earth. Some delegates laughed nervously. Others looked confused. Earth was not known as a major military power compared to ancient empires. Humanity had joined the Council only a few decades earlier. They were respected for their creativity and diplomacy, but few believed they could stand against a large invasion. Ethan Clark stood near the human delegation area, watching the reactions around him. He wore a simple dark uniform with no bright symbols, only a small Earth emblem on his chest. He listened carefully as alien representatives debated. One tall, insect-like delegate said the attackers must be reckless or desperate. Another claimed it was a mistake in the data. A reptilian ambassador suggested that young species often attracted predators because they appeared weak. Laughter followed, and Ethan noticed how easily many dismissed the danger. The Council's leader raised a hand for silence. More information appeared on the display. Several fleets belonging to a coalition of aggressive species were confirmed moving in coordinated patterns toward the solar system. Their ships were large and heavily armed. Their route was direct. There was no doubt about their intention. Etan felt a quiet weight settle in his chest. He had known this day might come. Humanity's rapid rise had drawn attention. Some admired humans, but others feared them. He requested permission to speak. His voice sounded calm across the chamber. He explained that Earth had no record of hostile action toward the coalition. He asked if diplomatic channels had been attempted. A council aide confirmed that no communication requests had been answered by the attackers. Whispers spread through the chamber. Some delegates expressed concern, but others seemed curious rather than alarmed. A few assumed humanity would surrender quickly and avoid destruction. Ethan said nothing more. He knew arguing would not change their minds. Humans had often been underestimated throughout history. Far away in the solar system, Commander Alex Turner stood inside a command center built into a rotating orbital station above Earth. Large screens displayed incoming data. Lines of ships moved slowly across tactical maps. The enemy fleets were still far away, but their speed meant they would arrive sooner than expected. Alex turned toward a group of officers seated behind glowing consoles. "Status report," he said. A young officer responded that all planetary defense systems were being activated. Satellite networks aligned into formation. Defense drones awakened from standby mode. Civilian traffic was redirected to safe corridors. Alex nodded. He looked at Earth through a nearby window. Clouds moved slowly over oceans and continents, peaceful and unaware of the threat approaching from deep space. Nina Brooks entered the room carrying a tablet filled with data. She was a scientist rather than a soldier, but her work had shaped humanity's defense strategy for years. She explained that the enemy coalition relied heavily on brute force tactics. They favored overwhelming numbers and direct attacks. "They think we are inexperienced," she said quietly. Alex smiled slightly. That might be their first mistake. Back in the council chamber, debate continued. Some delegates suggested sending observers to watch the conflict from a safe distance. Others proposed intervention, but many argued the Council should remain neutral unless a member formally requested aid. Ethan watched them carefully. He knew humans would fight alone if necessary, but he also understood how politics worked. Few civilizations wanted to risk their own fleets unless the outcome was certain. A small bird-like delegate asked Ethan if humanity truly believed it could defend itself. Ethan answered honestly, "We will defend our home." "We always do." The delegate studied him for a long moment, perhaps sensing the quiet confidence beneath his calm tone. Meanwhile, the attacking coalition advanced through interstellar space. Their ships formed rigid lines, engines burning bright. Commanders aboard those vessels believed the mission would be simple. Intelligence reports described humanity as divided and emotional, a species that relied on diplomacy more than strength. None of them understood how much humanity had changed since reaching the stars. On Earth, news of the approaching fleet spread quickly. Governments coordinated with each other instead of arguing. People watched broadcasts explaining the situation with clear instructions, but without panic. Cities continued their routines, though a sense of tension filled the air. Engineers worked day and night preparing defense platforms hidden within asteroid fields. Miners converted industrial ships into support vessels. Teachers reassured children that everything possible was being done to keep them safe. Humanity had faced danger many times before, and each crisis had shaped how they responded now. Alex visited a training bay where pilots prepared for deployment. Captain Logan Price stood among them, checking equipment. Logan greeted him with a confident nod. "Looks like they picked the wrong planet," Logan said. Alex replied that arrogance could be dangerous on both sides. They reviewed plans together, focusing on flexibility rather than rigid strategy. Human tactics emphasized adaptation. Each pilot understood the overall goal, but had freedom to change approach based on real-time conditions. Dr. Nina Brooks joined them and explained new updates to targeting software. Her algorithms allowed ships to predict enemy movement patterns based on behavioral analysis. Instead of overwhelming firepower, humans planned to confuse and divide the attacking fleets. As days passed, tension grew. Long-range sensors detected the enemy entering the outer edges of the solar system. Council observers gathered in the chamber to watch live feeds. Some expected to witness humanity's defeat. Others felt uneasy, sensing that something unusual was unfolding. Ethan stood quietly while delegates whispered around him. He thought about Earth's history, about how humans had survived wars, disasters, and internal conflicts. Their strength did not come from perfection, but from resilience. The first human defense line activated near the asteroid belt. Small ships moved like shadows, avoiding direct detection. Drones spread out in complex patterns designed to gather data and create false signals. Enemy commanders interpreted these movements as retreat. They accelerated forward, confident that humans were already afraid. Alex watched their advance and gave a simple order: maintain distance. Do not engage fully yet. His officers followed without hesitation. Patience was part of the plan. On Earth, families gathered around screens, watching updates. Some felt fear, but many felt pride seeing humanity stand together. Volunteers signed up to assist logistics teams. Medical centers prepared for potential casualties, even though leaders hoped to avoid heavy losses. Nina worked continuously, monitoring energy levels of hidden defense stations. Each system needed perfect timing. Activating too early could reveal positions. Too late could allow the enemy to reach Earth's orbit. She paused briefly to look at a photo on her desk showing her younger brother standing on a beach under a bright sky. She whispered to herself that she would do everything possible to protect that world. Back in the council chamber, a sudden change appeared on the tactical display. Human ships began to shift formation, drawing the enemy deeper into a specific region of space. Council members argued over what it meant. Some said humans were running. Others suspected a trap. Ethan remained silent, watching carefully. He trusted Alex and the commanders back home. The enemy fleets entered the designated zone without hesitation. Moments later, dozens of hidden satellites activated simultaneously. Energy fields distorted space, disrupting enemy communication signals. Their formation broke apart as confusion spread among their ranks. Gasps filled the council chamber. This was not the behavior of a weak civilization. Ethan allowed himself a small breath of relief, though he knew the real battle had not yet begun. Alex watched enemy ships struggle to reorganize. He ordered limited strikes targeting propulsion systems rather than destroying vessels outright. Human pilots moved with precision, disabling weapons and engines while avoiding unnecessary destruction. Captain Logan Price led a squadron through a cloud of asteroids, emerging behind a larger enemy ship and cutting its power with a focused energy burst. The enemy vessel drifted helplessly, unable to respond. Council observers stared in shock as the live feed showed coordinated human tactics. Instead of chaotic fighting, everything looked controlled and deliberate. Nina analyzed data streams rapidly. She adjusted targeting parameters, sending updates directly to pilots' interfaces. The battle became a dance of movement and adaptation. Far away, enemy commanders realized their assumptions had been wrong. Humanity was not panicking. They were guiding the battlefield itself. Ethan watched the council's reaction change from amusement to disbelief. Whispers spread across the chamber as delegates realized they might be witnessing something historic. The first stage of humanity's defense had begun, and the galaxy was finally starting to understand that Earth was not a fragile target, but a world prepared to stand strong against any threat. The enemy fleets moved deeper into the solar system, their commanders trying to regain control after the sudden disruption of their communication networks. Human tactics confused them. Instead of a direct confrontation, human ships appeared and disappeared like shadows, striking carefully and then pulling back before heavy retaliation could begin. Commander Alex Turner stood in the orbital command center watching tactical displays change every second. Lines of data flowed across screens, showing enemy movement patterns and energy levels. The first stage of defense had worked better than expected. The enemy formation was broken, and their ships no longer moved as a single powerful wave. Alex spoke calmly to his officers. He reminded them that patience remained the key. Humanity did not need to destroy every ship. They only needed to stop the invasion and force the attackers to reconsider. Captain Logan Price guided his squadron through a narrow field of floating rock fragments. His pilots trusted his experience. They had trained for years to operate in complex environments where large enemy vessels struggled to maneuver. As they emerged from cover, they targeted a heavy cruiser's engines, disabling it without destroying the ship. Enemy fighters rushed to defend the damaged cruiser, but human drones intercepted them, creating confusion. Logan ordered his team to withdraw before the enemy could reorganize. He believed survival and strategy mattered more than heroic risk. On Earth, people watched the battle unfold through filtered broadcasts. Governments avoided showing full tactical details, but enough information reached the public to reassure them that humanity was not losing. Communities supported each other. Volunteers organized supply networks for military bases. Engineers upgraded communication lines to prevent cyber attacks. Dr. Nina Brooks barely slept. She analyzed battle patterns, searching for weaknesses in the enemy strategy. She noticed that coalition ships relied heavily on centralized command signals. When those signals were disrupted, their reaction slowed. She sent recommendations to Alex, suggesting new ways to divide the enemy forces further. Alex approved her plan immediately. He trusted Nina's instincts. New orders spread across the fleet, directing pilots to focus on isolating smaller enemy groups instead of engaging the entire armada at once. Far away, the Galactic Council watched with growing interest. The earlier laughter had disappeared. Ambassador Grace Hall explained human tactics to curious delegates, describing how humans learned from history. Older civilizations often relied on tradition, but humans constantly changed their approach based on new information. Ethan Clark observed quietly while council members asked questions. Some admitted they had underestimated humanity. Others remained skeptical, believing the enemy coalition still held greater numbers and heavier weapons. The battle near the asteroid belt intensified. Human ships used gravitational anomalies created by hidden projectors to alter enemy navigation. Large vessels struggled to maintain balance while smaller human fighters moved freely through the shifting space. Enemy commanders grew frustrated. Their strategy relied on overwhelming force, but they could not bring their full power to bear against an opponent that refused to fight directly. Captain Logan received a distress signal from a civilian cargo ship caught between battle zones. Without hesitation, he diverted his squadron to protect it. Human fighters formed a defensive circle guiding the slow-moving vessel to safety while avoiding enemy fire. The cargo ship's crew later transmitted messages of gratitude that spread across human networks, boosting morale. Alex watched this decision and approved. Protecting civilians remained a core value, even during war. As hours turned into days, the enemy coalition attempted to reorganize. They deployed new formations designed to counter human mobility. Massive warships advanced slowly but steadily, using heavy shields to resist disabling attacks. Nina studied these changes carefully. She realized the enemy was adapting faster than expected. She suggested activating deeper layers of defense that had remained hidden until now. Alex hesitated for a moment. Revealing too much could expose humanity's full capabilities to the galaxy, but allowing the enemy to reach Earth's orbit was unacceptable. He authorized limited activation. Suddenly, dormant platforms near Jupiter powered up. Energy pulses spread across space, creating zones where enemy sensors malfunctioned. Human fleets used these areas as cover, launching precise strikes against vulnerable systems. Enemy morale began to weaken. Reports from captured communications revealed confusion among coalition leaders. Some questioned the wisdom of continuing the attack. Others pushed forward stubbornly, unwilling to admit failure. In the council chamber, live feeds showed human pilots disabling enemy ships without destroying them unnecessarily. Delegates whispered among themselves. Many expected humans to seek revenge, but instead they displayed controlled force. Grace Hall spoke to the council about human ethics in warfare. She explained that humanity valued restraint because they understood the cost of endless cycles of violence. Some delegates listened with respect, while others struggled to understand a strategy that combined strength with mercy. Ethan watched silently, proud but cautious. The battle was far from over. Back in the solar system, Alex received intelligence that the Coalition planned a major push toward Mars' orbit. If successful, they could establish a staging ground close to Earth. He gathered his officers for a briefing. They discussed multiple scenarios. Instead of blocking the advance directly, Alex chose a risky plan. Human fleets would appear to retreat again, drawing enemy forces into a narrow corridor between gravitational fields created by hidden projectors. Captain Logan smiled when he heard the plan. It relied on deception, something humans had mastered through centuries of conflict. The enemy advanced aggressively, believing humans were losing ground. As they entered the corridor, space itself seemed to shift. Navigation systems malfunctioned, and ships drifted slightly off course. Human fleets emerged from different directions, isolating groups of enemy vessels and forcing them to surrender. Nina monitored energy levels carefully. The gravitational projectors consumed enormous power. She warned that prolonged use could drain reserves needed for Earth's final defense. Alex acknowledged the risk but continued the operation long enough to break the enemy's momentum. On Earth, people watched updates showing enemy ships surrendering. Hope grew stronger, but leaders reminded everyone that the invasion was not yet over. Inside one captured enemy vessel, human boarding teams worked calmly. They treated injured crew members regardless of species. This unexpected compassion confused prisoners who had expected harsh treatment. News of this behavior spread through enemy channels, creating doubt among coalition soldiers. Some began questioning their leader's decision to attack humanity. The council chamber grew quieter as observers realized they were witnessing not only a military defense, but a demonstration of human values. Strength, intelligence, and restraint combined in ways many had never seen before. Ethan spoke privately with several delegates who now expressed concern about the attackers' future. If humanity won decisively, power dynamics across the galaxy could shift. Ethan assured them that humans sought cooperation, not domination, but he knew actions mattered more than words. The battle reached another turning point when enemy reinforcements arrived from hyperspace. Massive ships larger than any previously encountered appeared near Saturn's orbit. Their arrival shocked human commanders and council observers alike. Alex studied the new threat carefully. These ships possessed stronger shields and advanced weapons. Humanity's earlier tactics might not work against them. Nina quickly analyzed data and suggested combining multiple defense systems in a way never tested during real combat. The risk was high, but the potential reward could neutralize the new threat. Alex approved the experiment. Human fleets repositioned, preparing for a new phase of battle that would test both their technology and their ability to adapt under pressure. As the massive enemy ships advanced slowly toward Earth, tension filled every command center and council chamber. The galaxy watched closely, realizing that the outcome of this moment would decide whether humanity truly deserved the reputation it was beginning to earn. The arrival of the massive enemy ships changed the mood across the battlefield. Their size alone made them look unstoppable. They moved slowly, but with steady confidence, surrounded by smaller escort vessels that formed protective layers around them. Many human pilots felt tension rise when they saw the new threat appear on their tactical displays. Commander Alex Turner studied the incoming data carefully. He understood that this was likely the enemy's final attempt to force victory. These larger ships carried heavy shields and long-range weapons that could reach targets before human fighters came close enough to disable them. Nina Brooks stood beside him, scanning energy readings. She spoke quietly, explaining that the enemy ships used advanced defensive fields that adapted to repeated attacks. Simple strategies would not work anymore. Alex nodded slowly. Humanity would need to change its approach again. Captain Logan Price listened through fleet communication channels as new orders arrived. Instead of direct attack, human ships would form scattered formations, forcing the enemy to divide their attention. Drones were released in large numbers, creating false targets that confused enemy targeting systems. The first exchange between human fleets and the massive ships shook space with bright flashes of energy. Enemy weapons fired powerful beams that forced human pilots to dodge quickly. Several drones were destroyed instantly, but they served their purpose by distracting the enemy long enough for human ships to slip closer. Logan led his squadron through a shifting gravitational field created by hidden projectors. His pilots trusted the system, even though it distorted space around them. As they approached one of the larger ships, they released specialized devices designed to weaken shield frequencies, rather than break through them directly. Nina watched data streams carefully. She adjusted parameters in real time, sending updates to pilots. The goal was not to overpower the enemy, but to make their shields unstable long enough for disabling strikes. Back on Earth, news networks reported that the battle had reached a critical stage. People gathered in homes and public spaces, watching quietly. There was fear, but also strong belief in the defenders protecting their planet. Volunteers continued supporting military operations by managing logistics, maintaining communication networks, and assisting emergency teams. Humanity functioned like a single living system, every part working toward survival. In the Galactic Council chamber, silence filled the air as delegates watched live feeds. The earlier disbelief had turned into respect. Some civilizations admitted privately that they had never expected humans to display such coordination and discipline. Ethan Clark observed their reactions carefully. He knew that perception mattered as much as victory. Humanity's actions during this battle would shape how other species viewed them for generations. The massive enemy ships advanced closer toward the inner solar system. Their commanders believed that if they could reach Mars' orbit, they could establish control and force humanity into negotiation. Alex refused to allow that to happen. He ordered a coordinated maneuver combining fleets from multiple directions. Instead of attacking from one side, human ships appeared from unexpected angles, creating constant pressure. Enemy weapons fired again, destroying several drones and damaging a few human ships. Emergency teams responded quickly, guiding injured pilots back to safety. Despite losses, morale remained strong. Captain Logan noticed a pattern in enemy movement. The large ships relied on predictable rotations to maintain shield stability. He shared this observation with Nina, who analyzed the data rapidly. She realized that by striking during specific moments, human fleets could bypass parts of the shield network. She transmitted new instructions to all pilots, and within minutes, the strategy changed. Human fighters moved in precise waves, attacking only during brief windows when shield alignment shifted. The results surprised everyone. Enemy ships began to slow, their systems struggling to maintain balance under constant targeted pressure. Inside one of the massive enemy vessels, commanders argued about whether to continue the assault. Communication disruptions and unexpected resistance had shaken their confidence. Some officers warned that humanity's tactics were too unpredictable. Still, their leaders pushed forward. Alex knew that forcing surrender required more than just slowing the enemy. He needed a decisive moment. Nina suggested activating a secondary network of gravitational projectors hidden near the moon. The system had never been tested under combat conditions, but it could create controlled zones that limited enemy movement. Alex hesitated briefly, understanding the risk, but finally approved. Deep within lunar orbit, dormant stations powered up. Energy waves spread quietly through space, invisible to most sensors until it was too late. When the enemy's ships crossed into the designated zone, their engines struggled against shifting gravitational forces. Suddenly, the massive vessels slowed dramatically. Human fleets moved into position around them, maintaining safe distance while preventing escape. Council observers watched in amazement. The battle did not look chaotic or desperate. It appeared controlled, almost calm, as human ships guided the enemy into a trap without unnecessary destruction. Captain Logan felt relief when he saw enemy movement decrease. He ordered his squadron to hold position and monitor surrender signals. Within hours, several enemy ships transmitted requests for ceasefire. They had realized they could not reach Earth, and continuing the fight would only cause further loss. However, a smaller group of enemy commanders refused to surrender. They activated powerful weapons and attempted to break free from the gravitational zone. Alex reacted immediately, directing fleets to focus on disabling those ships quickly. Human pilots worked together with precise coordination, targeting engines and weapon systems until resistance faded. Nina monitored energy reserves carefully. The gravitational network consumed enormous power, and she warned that it could not remain active forever. Alex ordered final maneuvers. Human fleets tightened their formation, creating a barrier that left the enemy with no safe path forward. On Earth, people watched as surrender signals appeared one after another on public broadcasts. Cheers filled streets and homes, though leaders urged calm until the conflict officially ended. In the council chamber, delegates whispered about how wrong their earlier assumptions had been. Many realized that humanity's strength came not from overwhelming force, but from adaptability and cooperation. Ithan felt pride, but remained focused. The aftermath would be just as important as the battle itself. As more enemy ships surrendered, human boarding teams prepared to secure them peacefully. Medical units stood ready to treat wounded soldiers from both sides. Captain Logan looked out from his cockpit at the quiet battlefield. The massive ships that once seemed unstoppable now drifted slowly, surrounded, but not destroyed. He understood that this moment would change how the galaxy saw humanity forever. The battle was nearing its end, but everyone knew that the choices made next would decide whether the victory led to lasting peace or future conflict. The battlefield slowly grew quiet after the final resistance faded. Massive enemy ships drifted without movement, their engines powered down under human supervision. Smaller vessels floated nearby, surrounded by human fleets that kept careful distance. The bright flashes of weapons fire disappeared, replaced by calm signals requesting communication. Commander Alex Turner remained at his station, watching the tactical map change from red warning markers to steady neutral colors. Reports confirmed that most enemy commanders had accepted ceasefire terms. A few damaged ships required immediate assistance to prevent loss of life. Alex ordered rescue teams to begin operations. Human ships moved forward slowly, sending medical units toward injured crews regardless of their allegiance. This decision surprised many observers, but for humans it felt natural. Protecting life mattered more than showing dominance. Captain Logan Price guided his squadron through the remains of the battlefield. He saw enemy vessels that once looked unstoppable, now sitting quietly in space, surrounded by human support ships offering help. Pilots shared updates across open channels, their voices calm and professional. On Earth, celebrations began slowly but respectfully. People felt relief rather than loud victory. Cities displayed lights in support of the defenders, but leaders encouraged unity instead of prideful displays. Humanity understood that peace required careful steps after conflict. Nina Brooks finally allowed herself a moment of rest. She sat in the command center, watching energy levels stabilize as gravitational projectors powered down safely. Her calculations had worked, but she knew luck had also played a role. She began writing reports immediately, documenting lessons learned for future defense planning. In the Galactic Council chamber, silence filled the space as delegates processed what they had witnessed. Earlier assumptions about humanity seemed distant now. Ambassador Grace Hall stood beside Ethan Clark, answering questions from curious representatives. Many delegates admitted they had believed Earth would fall quickly. Others expressed admiration for how humans balance strength with restraint. Some even asked whether humanity planned to expand its influence after such a decisive defense. Ethan responded calmly that humanity sought cooperation, not control. He explained that defending one's home did not mean seeking power over others. His words carried weight because everyone had watched human actions during the battle. Meanwhile, negotiations began between human diplomats and captured enemy leaders. Meetings took place aboard a neutral station positioned between fleets. Translators worked continuously as representatives discussed ceasefire conditions. Enemy commanders appeared tired and confused. They had expected a simple conquest, but instead faced defeat without humiliation. Human negotiators avoided harsh language, focusing instead on preventing future conflict. One enemy officer admitted that their intelligence reports described humans as divided and emotionally unstable. They believed humanity would panic under pressure. Hearing this, the human representatives exchanged quiet smiles. History had shown many times that humans often united when facing danger. Alex joined one of the negotiation sessions through secure communication. He emphasized that humanity would not tolerate further attacks, but remained open to peaceful relations. He asked only for recognition of Earth's sovereignty and commitment to non-aggression. The enemy leaders agreed, understanding they had little choice. However, the respectful tone of the conversation surprised them. They expected anger or revenge, but found calm determination instead. Back in orbit, rescue teams continued their work. Human medics treated injured soldiers from both sides with equal care. Shared experiences during treatment began to change how some enemy crew members viewed humanity. Fear slowly turned into curiosity. Captain Logan observed one such interaction while waiting for orders. A human medic helped an alien pilot who had been trapped inside a damaged cockpit. When the alien asked why humans were helping their enemies, the medic simply replied that saving lives mattered more than old mistakes. News of these actions spread across communication networks, reaching even distant parts of the galaxy. Many civilizations saw humanity in a new light. They were not reckless warriors, but thoughtful defenders capable of compassion even after being attacked. On Earth, children watched documentaries explaining the battle in simple terms. Teachers used the moment to discuss cooperation and responsibility. Artists created images celebrating unity rather than conflict. Humanity's culture absorbed the experience quickly, turning it into lessons for the future. Nina continued analyzing battlefield data. She noticed patterns showing that human success came from flexible decision-making rather than superior technology alone. She prepared recommendations for future training programs that emphasized creativity and teamwork. Alex visited the observation window of the orbital station. Earth looked peaceful again, its blue oceans glowing under sunlight. He felt pride in the fleet, but also responsibility. The galaxy now understood that humanity was stronger than many had believed. How humans use that reputation would shape future relationships. The council invited Ethan and Grace to speak during a formal session discussing the outcome of the conflict. Delegates filled the chamber, eager to hear human perspectives. Grace spoke about cooperation between civilians, scientists, and soldiers during the defense. She explained that humanity's strength came from diversity of ideas rather than strict hierarchy. Different viewpoints allowed humans to adapt quickly. Ethan added that humans did not see themselves as perfect. Their history contained mistakes and struggles, but those experiences taught resilience. He encouraged the council to treat emerging species with respect instead of suspicion. Many delegates agreed. Proposals emerged to update council policies, encouraging mentorship rather than control over younger civilizations. While diplomacy progressed, logistics teams worked tirelessly to escort surrendered enemy ships away from the solar system. Damaged vessels received repairs to ensure safe travel. Human engineers shared basic technical assistance, further surprising former opponents. Some enemy crew members expressed gratitude openly. Others remained quiet but respectful. Seeds of future cooperation began to grow slowly. Captain Logan returned to Earth after weeks in space. He walked through a quiet city street where people greeted him with smiles instead of loud celebration. He felt grateful for the calm atmosphere. Humanity had defended itself without losing its sense of humanity. Nina visited a research center where new defense technologies were already being discussed. She insisted that diplomacy should remain humanity's first line of defense. Stronger weapons mattered less than understanding others. Alex attended a meeting with global leaders who praised the fleet, but reminded everyone that future challenges would come. They agreed to strengthen alliances and continue improving defense systems while promoting peace. Months later, the Galactic Council held a ceremony recognizing humanity's actions during the invasion. Instead of celebrating military power alone, they highlighted humanity's restraint and willingness to help former enemies recover. Ethan stood among delegates who once doubted humans but now treated him with respect. He remembered the moment when the council first heard about the attack and laughed. Now those same voices spoke carefully when discussing Earth. The story of the failed invasion spread across the galaxy, becoming a lesson taught to young diplomats and commanders. Attacking humanity without understanding them had proven to be a serious mistake. As time passed, trade routes reopened, and new friendships formed between species that once stood on opposite sides of the battlefield. Former enemies visited Earth as guests, curious to learn more about the people who had defended their home without losing compassion. Alex often looked back on the battle, not as a moment of triumph, but as a reminder of responsibility. Strength alone did not define humanity. The choices made after victory mattered just as much. And so the galaxy remembered the day when the Council had been stunned by the news of an attack on Earth, only to witness humanity stand firm, adapt, and choose peace when it could have chosen pride.